Hi, everyone. At a show of hands, who is here actually not a developer? Just for my understanding. Can you just show me over there one? All right, perfect. That gives me kind of a understanding of how my audience is going to react to this, I hope. So basically, I'm coming from a world of low-code, no-code. So I'm not a developer. I'm a product and marketing consultant. And for years, I was building MVPs and prototypes with WordPress, with Bubble.io, so no-code tools that I could use in order to create something. So for me, that was something that helped me to bridge some gap in order to validate ideas early on. And this was something that was always a bit frustrating because I could build something small at the very beginning, but I couldn't build something completely, or at least get to a point that I was satisfied, and I always need external help. And what changed was basically about a year ago when this little tool called Lovable came out. And that was for me a change, because as someone who's coming from a world who never had the opportunity to develop something or create a front end in a way that he helps him to change every aspect of this, Lovable helped me to create something very, very quickly. Does anyone know this tool, Lovable.dev or Bolt.new, these new AI tools that you can use? I know someone there? No one else knows this tool? All right. So Lovable or Bolt.new, these are small AI tools. Basically, you have a interface where you can type in a request, and the changes will appear in the tool itself. And for me, this was a change in a way that I could, with natural language, actually change things on the website, on the front end. And specifically at the very beginning, this changed the way that I actually approached creating products from scratch. The transition for me, and I think for a lot of business people, is at the moment a very simple one, and it is we don't become developers. What we become is technical enough in order to help developers to validate something before it goes to the next stage, before we do the handover. I think before we have these conversations about how someone who is not a developer becomes now a full AI specialist, this is in my view and the things that I'm currently seeing on the market not realistic. And therefore, what I believe for product marketing and people who are working in business, it is to become technical enough to use these AI tools in order to create something that is of value that people can test out and experiment with in order to go to the next layer. So ideas into experiments, that's the path that I'm currently seeing with these tools. So these tools called Lovable, Bolt, Claude. I'm not sure if you actually saw Claude Code. That's actually an interesting one as well. We are going to jump into two of these tools later on. But basically, what happened was for me, I started to use them as a power user, and across all of those, I used quite a few to commit to GitHub for the first time in my life a year back, and that wasn't something that I did before. Before that was always in tools where I had no control about the code, didn't have any insight, and that gave me a bit more control. And with these tools, it helps me to actually change things a lot faster than before. This is an example from yesterday evening. Yesterday evening, I was on an event, on a startup event, and there were a lot of non-technical founders who basically tried to get UX feedback on their tools. And they all used, or some of them used, Lovable in order to create a very first version. What you create is basically a front end. You type in some information into it, and you can see the changes live changing. And this was, for example, a young woman who never coded, and she was able to create something within a couple of hours that helped her to visualize her vision, to bring it to other people and to get feedback in order to have the first conversation. And in that part, this is where the change really is huge, because for us, this helped us to visualize everything that comes into your mind very, very quickly and get some feedback. And this feedback then makes better products because there's a lot more iteration. So for non-technicals, the most important thing is become technical enough in order to build a landing page, to automate, for example, daily insights that you need. Or if you want to create images, don't just do one, do 15, because you are able to use AI a lot in order to be a lot faster. And that, at least for me, becoming technical enough was the most important thing in the last year, because it helped me to create more and help the developers that I'm working with in order to get something out which is not just something that needs more iteration, but has already a lot of iteration in there, and the changes are added before it. So when product and marketing can build, they learn to accelerate. They have product cycles that are a lot shorter, and teams can have a lot more evidence. And these evidence loops, they help them to win on the market. My workflow, my new workflow, user stories, they become, in most cases, components. And these components become testable apps that I'm actually creating myself. And then I'm using these testable apps to make decisions whether or not the next step is actually something that I want to go in or not. Basically, this loop helps me a lot because it basically goes away from where I was before. Where in most cases I wasn't just doing user stories. I was basically just trying to understand something on the market without having a visual or a Figma file. And now I have like a testable tool that I can actually help literally create in minutes and get some feedback. So in most cases, that means ideas become PRDs, so product requirement documents. And these product requirement documents are long. I'm going to show you one in a second. Basically, that's an 8-page document where I specify everything about the product that I'm trying to build, about the idea that I had, and create everything in one document and then feed it as a prompt into an AI. And in my case, it is Lovable, Bolt.new in order to get the very first version out there. And with this, if the planning is great, in this case, it was a photography spot finder, which I had a couple of days ago asked me to build. The speed in which I actually go into the market and able to talk to people who could use this tool is just insane. So before that, you could create like a very simple Figma prototype, but you would have had to have the skills to create each of these at the very beginning. At the moment, you go to Lovable, you type in the ideas that you have, you create the very first version, and that allows you to be faster and get a clickable prototype into the market very, very quickly. So for me, at the moment, the process looks like this. I have a PRD, I go into Lovable, I get a very first version, I go to the market. When I say market, I'm going out, I'm talking to people, and I'm showing them the very first version that I have. I don't need to put it online or it is online. It doesn't need to go to be a live app with a login or anything. It just is a clickable prototype that people use in order to get feedback. In my case, I had with this photography app, I went to a meetup. I had 15 people who looked into this and gave me feedback. And while they were giving me feedback, I changed the things in the app. So there were 5 comments about how bad the UI was, specifically because they couldn't find the photography locations. There were no map in there. So I changed it and added a small map into that. And that was all just by prompting into this area. And I think this is something that you are going to see more and more, that it is going to be a lot easier. And we'll jump into that into a second. So non-technical people can validate ideas before developers even touching the code. And I think for me, that's really important because in my line, I always had to had a developer who helps me create something. There was always some dependency, and now there's some way I can actually create something, get feedback, validate it, and there's a lot smoother handover to the development team that I'm working with. And people, and there's always this fear that AI is taking over most of the roles. I don't believe that. I think it's a tool that helps us to be a lot faster, and it's just a tool. And it gets in a way that it brings our ideas a lot faster to market. It lets us test across multiple variations of the idea that we currently have, and brings us to the point that we are not just bringing something to market that hasn't been tested properly, but something that has enough information, enough variations that, to get to something that people actually want. Yeah. The last slide is about the fundamentals. Whether or not you use AI to create something or not, the fundamentals have not changed. It's always about, do people actually want what you create? Are you actually solving a real problem? Are you continuous iteration? So all these things are still the same thing. If you don't understand your customer, you can build as many prototypes as you want. You're ending up with something that no one wants, and that happens in the same way in the digital in this AI prototyping world as it was before. And for me, that meant I created quite a few tools, and what I'm doing right now is I'm basically, first of all, always having these conversations, building with Lovable, having no one involved in the process, and then going from there and basically have a clickable prototype that helps me to get to something that people actually want, and where I'm actually getting a yes. That is interesting. Can I have this version? Can you create this maybe properly? And then there's a conversation with my development team in order to hand this over. Okay, so that was the slides that I want to show you. And I just wanted to jump into these tools and actually show you how this looks like. Before we jump in there, are there any questions so far? Okay, so let me go out here. Okay, so this is one of these tools called Lovable. And basically, it works, as I just said. You have an input screen, and you can put in a prompt. And once you input the prompt, you will get a two-pan screen where you have the AI working on the very first version. I use this one. Let's just put in the PRD in full. Zack. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm obviously there's a lot of iteration that comes into this. In most cases, these PRDs I'm working for a full day or two to actually get it to a point that I have enough information. Is the design style appropriate the way that I want to? Are all the different features properly defined in this PRD? So I'm creating something from scratch in order to build a document that has all the elements that I want in order to create a good product. And then I can jump into here. Because what I found is you tend to, if you just give it a small prompt, it creates something. The very first version looks great, but then it takes a lot of time to iterate, and it takes a lot of time to get to something that you are going to be happy with. And in this case, it's going to take a while until it's done because it's quite a long prompt. But what I did now is I started to build something in Lovable, and then I'm exporting it to GitHub, and then I'm using Claude Code in order to work on it. Let me show you what I mean with Claude Code. So basically, Claude Code or Claude is another AI. Have you heard of Claude? Perfect. So Claude is the same way as ChatGPT, generative AI tool, and I'm using it as well as a non-developer in VS Code. And this is, for me, a huge change, because if you think about like 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, this was not even possible. I would never look into VS Code. For me, this was a tool that was outside of my range of possibilities. And now I'm able to create something from scratch. So I just wanted to show you how this would look like in how Cloud Code would look like. So in this case, obviously there's no files in there, but in most cases I could now have a communication with this tool. Same way I would, if I have a communication on the side. As you can see, I have Copilot open as well, and would have a communication here too, and then change the things that I want. But for me, that means I have full control about the entire process. And before that, I didn't, and that is insane. Okay. Let's see if it's already done. Maybe I'll show you a version that I already created, and that is now in the Google Studio, in Google AI Studio, because this is another. Same as ChatGPT or Claude. This is so AI Google Studio just created their own version of it, so you can build within there. And this is a tool that I created myself, and a corporate innovation analyzer. Basically, it's you get all the ideas that you have, and then you just compare them against each other, and then you get a report which looks like this. With all the information. And the beauty about the AI Google Studio is it goes even faster than, for example, Lovable or Bolt.new, because Gemini is already implemented. So the AI is already in the code, and you basically get a working tool with an API to Gemini and can prompt it directly. So this is just the outcome. And if I go back, you can see here, it's the same kind of screen. In this case, with the Google AI Studio, you can actually even, for example, select one of these presets and then create something out of it very, very quickly. Let me see if I have the Banana Potter. Let's see if it's already done. Yep. So we have our little first front end that I can use now to basically go out and show to people in order to get some feedback. And that is just 1.5 years ago, this would be quite a lot of work. There would be a lot more work involved into creating something like this. And coming to a point where I'm able to just jump into something and look into it, get some feedback, and then if I want to, for example, I would say, okay, I'm not happy about the way the best times to shoot are visible here, because maybe I want this to be different. I would just ask and say, can you make this red, please? So basically, because I selected the background, it now knows that it should change this one. Unfortunately, it takes a while, but we'll come back to it. Again, I'm just talking to the front end. I'm changing the things that I want to change, and once they're changed, I'm able to go out and actually test it again. And I can do this again and again and again. I can create multiple variations. What I'm, as you can see, this is my Nano Banana Potter tool that I created. And basically, for Lovable, the great thing is I can create 15 variations of this version right now. And I could just have all these variations and show them in different scenarios to people and get feedback to which part is actually most interesting. So while this looks very basic at the early stage, it gives me the possibility to test so many more things. And before that, that was just not possible. And therefore, it becomes powerful in a way for non-developers or developers as well, because it gives you just speed to test things. And just before you even need to think about code and how you want to lay it out or something. You get something to show and get feedback on the very first version. Oh, look. Wonderful nanopotter. Okay. So the way that I normally start my processes are with a hypothesis. I have a hypothesis on what I want to, what kind of problem, what kind of pain point there is, and then how I actually think this tool could help someone with that. So you start with a hypothesis, and you say, for example, in this scenario, this is my photography tool. My hypothesis is that photographers like me enjoy taking photo routes in a specific city, and therefore they would like to have an app and would pay for that. That's an hypothesis that I have, and this hypothesis I need to test. So I write this hypothesis down. I have a scenario of someone who would like to have that, a persona, and then with these two, I have the first conversations. So 2 years ago, I would probably create 20 slides, create every version of the persona that I think is relevant to the problem, the pain point that I was trying to solve, the hypothesis that I believe the persona needs in order to use that. And I would test all different variations, and now I would just go out with this and get early feedback. One of my tricks that I'm currently doing is I'm implementing within these tools the framework, the matrix, as well into that. So what you can do here, for example, there's a part called the cloud. So you can basically implement the cloud in terms of you have a database in the backend, which is connected to this tool. And what it allows me to do is basically have like a matrix of, okay, these are the personas that I have, these are the problems that I'm trying to solve, and I'm looking what kind of connections I can actually make in this field and test directly on my phone with people. Okay, so these are the two things. My latest test is a tool that I'm building for basically real estate agents, and I'm looking whether or not this is an interesting one. I'm building quite a lot very, very quickly, and I'm testing each of these hypotheses. So each of these sections are hypotheses for me, and I can go out and test variations of that. Okay, that was it.